Hi.
Hello, hello. Yeah, we are live.
Oh my God, this is fun.
¿Cómo están? ¿Cómo están todos? Welcome back again to Get the Inside, an event by Insightfulbabes. I'm Maria, and Diana is here as well. And of course, nuestra special guest, Jaylen. ¿Cómo estás, Jaylen?
I'm good, just here, enjoying my 2 weeks. And yeah, it was funny because literally a year ago is when we did the podcast with you guys of me starting my journey into nursing, and now here we are a year later.
Woo, woo. And it's so exciting. We're so excited to have you here with us and to be able to follow you through your journey. It's been an exciting time. Pues igual, gracias a todos los que se están conectando. Aquí tenemos a Blanca. Hola, Blanca. And Lina Reyes. Hola. If you guys have any questions throughout this interview, please let us know. Y pues empezamos, ¿no, Diana?
Sí, let's get it. Si tienen preguntas, déjenlo en los comentarios, por favor. Okay, so Jaylen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a first-generation Mexican-American, and I'm the first nurse in my family. So a year ago, it was like just scrambling to get everything set up. Like I graduated in 2019. And then I didn't find a job until January of 2020. So it took a while to get my license, to navigate how to do interviews, because interviews overall are just completely different. I was so nervous for my first one. And I felt like I thought I was going to do okay. And then at the end, I was like, dang, I really bombed that. Because it was, I just thought it was a regular, applying for a job. But nursing is completely different because of the questions that they ask. And I'm like, oh my God, these are harder. But so then I started my first job in January of last year, and I stayed at that community hospital for 6 months, and then I ended up transitioning into a different role as a community health nurse. So now I'm almost inching my way towards being a year with Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. As a community health nurse. And I've been so happy working with the homeless population that we're doing right now, because we have like a shelter where we go, and part of the shelter was converted into an isolation unit. So people who tested positive, whether you're homeless or you just live with high-risk family members, like they would just come and isolate the 10 to 14 days with us. We would monitor them, make sure that, if they're getting any more symptoms, did they get worse? Are they getting better? Or did they not have any symptoms at all? It's just a lot of nursing having to do with symptoms and making sure that they get out of that infectious period. Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of that, plus just entering that new role. They also had me doing the testing team. So I was going to other facilities, testing people, seeing the data of everything overall all of Chicago, because we worked with CDPH on this project. So it's interesting how we see the numbers just go up and down from last year. And now we're seeing the numbers start going down now that we're doing vaccinations.
Let's see. Ahorita, yeah, everybody should be on their way to get their vaccines. And I loved when you started to promote a lot of information towards our community, right? La comunidad latina, porque pues como sabemos, casi toda nuestra comunidad latina, no todos hablan inglés, ¿cierto? So they need that information, necesitan la información. Y me gustaría si podrías compartir how your experience, because I know that you barely started this journey. We had you last year in our podcast, and you had barely started your journey. No sabías que te iba a tocar y de la nada, boom, COVID. So, ¿cómo te sentiste? How was that for you?
I always tell everyone that I'm just shocked that I even got through it. It was so hard because it's just a lot of new things coming out every day. Every single day, I remember in the hospital, the protocols, the policies, they were changing. They're like, oh, you don't have to wear a mask in the hallway, but you have to wear a mask in the room. And then don't wear a mask by the nursing station, but if you're by people, you have to wear a mask. And then everything just started changing. It's like, you need surgical masks. And then we changed to N95s. And then it's just having to continually like learn new things on a day-to-day basis was challenging. Plus I had to learn how to organize myself as a nurse, how to take care of 4, 5, 6 patients by myself, all their medications, all their treatments, how to like navigate talking to the doctors, the therapists, respiratory therapists, everyone. Like it was like all this information plus a pandemic. And I was like, okay, they taught me everything else other than the pandemic part in nursing school. So I was like, okay, I didn't get a class on this. Yeah, it was very intense until I started picking up a little more of how I can organize myself as a nurse, and then focusing on the pandemic part, like keeping myself up to date on everything that was going on, like the different testing kits that they had, like the PCR one or the rapid tests, all these other things that were going on. New symptoms, because at first we started with 3 symptoms, and then it came in like a whole list of different kinds of symptoms that you can get with COVID. And I was like, okay. So slowly you had to like just add on things, change things, be flexible. And that's pretty much what I had to tell myself is like, you know, you learn one thing, but you gotta keep learning. Every day you learn something new, regardless.
That's true. Do you feel like if it wasn't for COVID, like maybe your journey would have been a little bit like less stressful, or like maybe you wouldn't have learned as much?
Actually, I'm not sure. I never actually thought about that, because I feel like I had this whole plan of like, I would go to a hospital, I would learn a certain thing, and then just, I'm not sure, like it feels like it was just supposed to be that way.
Yeah, like it was meant to be.
Yes, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it did kind of like jumpstart my skills and made me think like, okay, I can't just take my time with this. I have to keep thinking. I got to keep learning and stay on top of like my career. Like I made my career my focus, and at the beginning it was good, but then I also had to remember like I have to take care of myself during that time. So it was good in the way that I learned how to be a nurse, but I also learned how to take care of myself so I wouldn't burn myself out because of the stress. And I feel like that's something that not a lot of the time anyone really talks about, is how do you take care of yourself, even if it wasn't a pandemic, like with the hard like amount of stress and demand that nurses go through, regardless if there was a pandemic or not. How do you take care of yourself? How do you make sure that you're 100% okay before you go take care of someone else? Like that's something that I always remember thinking about, is that I have to be okay in order to take care of my patients, because how am I going to be able to take care of them appropriately if I'm not okay?
Yeah, that's true.
Same.
And especially if it's like not just one patient, you have like 4 to 5 patients. So that's already like a lot of other people that you have to think about.
Yeah, and sometimes they're the same people. Like I'll come back the same, like I used to come back the same night and get the same patients. And most of the time it was like every single night you had just 5, 4 completely different people. And it was like, wow, I have to just do this all over again, like start all over every single time.
Sí, ¿y cómo le hiciste? ¿Cómo le hiciste para lidiar con todo eso? Like, what were some of the steps you could say that helped you remain calm throughout this?
I think, well, at that point, like after the podcast that we did, that's when we went into lockdown. And then the next month, I think in like the end of April, that's when I moved out and went to a hotel. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm completely alone. So now I only have to worry about like, you know, going to work, focusing on myself, making sure I slept, because I was working night shifts. So I had to make sure I was sleeping okay to go to the next shift. And just being able to virtually surround myself with other people. So I would constantly be texting like my mentors that were part of NON, and then the community that Martha Reina did for Latina RN. Like that was one of the most incredible communities that helped me kind of like, connect with other nurses and see how is everyone else dealing with this. And just like being able to create a space where we can vent and understand each other, because it's so different when you're talking to one of your friends who is not a nurse or not in the healthcare field, and you're like, oh, well, like, yeah, I'm so stressed because I had these many patients, I had this going on, and they're like, oh, well, I'm sorry you're feeling stressed, but it's like they don't understand to what amount that stress is because they don't go through that. But if you talk with like, a space where there's nurses and they understand the situation, then that's different. You feel a different kind of connection, a different kind of like therapeutic like relief at that point.
Like someone you could relate to.
Yeah.
Sí, because I can't imagine what you went through, because I mean, being new at that career and then having the pandemic, and it's just like I know everything changed for everyone, but I feel that it was a lot more for, all of the medical staff, that they had to go through a pandemic. Y pues no, me imagino para todos like you, that you were new at this, you were barely starting, and then it's like, Jaylen, ¿qué crees? Pandemic time, it's like, whoa. Pero I know that you've been a lot of help with our community. ¿Y cómo te sientes tú de poder, be bilingual and, be able to help others? ¿Cómo te sientes?
I mean, it's something that I appreciate so much, that like my mom, she taught me ever since I was little, like, you're going to learn both languages. Even though you're learning English at school, you're going to know Spanish. So I'm very appreciative of being able to communicate and advocate for my patients who are Spanish speaking, because there's so many things that even knowing English and you don't understand the healthcare system, you still need to understand like certain words that go with it. So I just imagine Spanish, like you can't really translate everything to them in Spanish without them having questions about what is this procedure, what is this medication, what is the pandemic, like what kind of virus is this? Like the explanations were never there at the beginning. So it was important, like for nurses like me and those who speak like 2-3 different languages, to be able to advocate for all these patients who speak different languages.
Sí. Sí, no, pues igual, muchas gracias for being that Latina and helping others. Any questions, Diana, that you have?
I think for our viewers, I just want to like ask, like, how did you decide to get started on like being a nurse? Like, what kind of triggered that in you? And if you have any advice for people who might want to, become nurses or are thinking about it.
Well, I was a music major in high school. So nursing and anything having to do with medicine was completely out of the picture, because I was like, I don't even know if I could, because of that lack of representation. We don't have Latinas in those positions, and really talking about it. Like, yeah, you can be a nurse. Like, you go to school, you do your 4 years. There's so many different programs out there. There's RN to BSN, the ADN. There's so many different ways you can start out. There's CNA programs. There's LPN, LVN. It's not always you go straight for your BSN. There's so many other routes. And I've talked a lot with other people as well, because a lot of people say, oh, well, just do the BSN because, it's important that you get your BSN. And yes, a lot of the time that is a great thing to have, but it's not a reality when you're a mom, when you're working, when you're the first generation and there's not savings to be able to get you through those 4 years. it's just something brand new introduced to certain families. So that's why it's important, like, provide these pathways to get to being a nurse practitioner or being a nurse with a PhD. Like, there's so many other avenues that you can take in order to get there. So I think, talking to your advisors, talking to nurses, finding a mentor, that's really important, because I feel like if I didn't find my professor, who she was like probably my most important like trigger, because she changed the whole way that I viewed my nursing career. Like, I felt like I was not going to pass. I was in my junior year. I'm like, oh my God, like, I cannot do this. It's so stressful. And then once I went into senior year, she was a great mentor for me, because she pushed me, she made me think, she made me believe in myself and have confidence in that. And that's why I feel like you need to be able to find those kinds of mentors in the field that you're going in. Even if you're going to be a nurse, a doctor, a therapist, a lawyer, anything, find those mentors in those communities, because those are the ones who are going to help you really blossom into the career.
I'm proud
true.
of you, Jaylen. I'm so
Super proud of you.
Yeah, like, I remember when we first met Jaylen, like, we were all nervous. We were barely starting to, though.
Yeah.
We're just like nervous and a little shy, and I see you now, and like, I see your posts, and like, I see your stories, and I'm like I just saw, like, we saw you like blossom.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have really grown from last year, because at first I was so nervous about this career. I will admit, I had moments where I was like, did I make the right choice? And every time I went to work, every time I had that patient who was there, who was grateful that I was there to like translate, to provide resources, to get that extra mile. And I feel like I absolutely made the right choice in being a nurse, and I want to continue my education, which is why I want to go back for my master's. And hopefully I'm able to go this year in the fall. But yeah, I mean, it's something that some people know that they want to be nurses since they're born. Other people, you don't know it until you're actually in it, that you can't see yourself in a different position. That's how I feel, is that I never thought about being a nurse. And now that I'm there, it feels like, wow, I can't see myself doing anything else other than nursing.
Yeah, and it's very different for everyone. Like you mentioned, hay unos que saben desde que son bebitos, right? Like están small, right? They know. And then there's others que, como dices tú, they find out what their passion is ya cuando están más grandes, right? And it's very different for everyone. And I feel that for us being Latinas, es como de que estamos con el tiempo, right? Because it's like, okay, especially women. Porque ahí luego te dicen, y el novio, y cuando te casas, So, yeah, los hijos. So, did you ever experience something like that, Jaylen?
Not really. Well, not really, because I feel like the people that really, they knew I was really focused in going to school and getting my career, and they see how happy I am doing everything I'm doing now. So like those questions, they don't really get asked, because I'm like, I'm happy. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
You're like,
don't bother me.
Yeah, it's like, I'm in my bubble.
Yeah. Yeah, and you are doing really good, and we're proud of you. And I don't know if you have any other questions, Maria, or you want to see if anybody in the comments or in the live has any questions for Jaylen.
¿Tienen preguntas? Pónganlas en los comentarios si tienen alguna pregunta. I feel that if it's okay with you, Jaylen, if we can talk about the vaccines, maybe share a little bit about what you know of que si hay gente que tiene miedo de ponerse la vacuna. ¿Qué les recomiendas?
María.
Los que tienen miedo.
Oh, María, what?
So there's gonna be questions all the time, and like I say, all the time. Do your research, because the more you know, the more comfortable you're going to feel. Because I can tell you, oh, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine, and you're still not going to believe me. Until you do that research and you see how many people have actually gotten it, how many people have gotten any kind of reaction, and what kind of reactions are those. Most of the time it's allergic reactions to whatever components the vaccine has, which is important that you know. They should be asking you, like, what kinds of allergies do you have? And if you're allergic to anything that is probably in the vaccine. Just like the flu shot, they ask, are you allergic to eggs? Like, you know, that's something that they ask sometimes. And it's important that you're looking into what kind of vaccine you're getting. There's the Pfizer, there's the Moderna, there's the Johnson & Johnson, and just see. Also ask questions. Like when you're there, don't be afraid to just ask questions and be like, hey, like, you know, I had this question and I want to make sure like this gets clarified before I get it and everything. So obviously we're not here just to date la vacuna ya. We're here to educate and to really be there for the community and make sure that you guys feel safe, make sure you guys feel protected, and get on the information that you need.
Okay, that's good to know. Voy a hacer la preguntona ahí. And what do you recommend after getting the vaccine?
A lot of rest. I know some people have actually like made sure that the next day they don't work. Because if you do get, like, let's say you feel tired, your arm is sore, or you start to develop like a low-grade fever, which is usually normal, you know, your body is activating and it's like, oh, hey, like there's something new that we need to kind of figure out. So I think, you know, if you can get the next day off, or if you're off the next day, make sure you schedule it that way. Drink lots of fluids, Gatorade, make sure you're eating, you have a good breakfast before, and, you know, you're calm, you're relaxing, you're not doing anything super heavy that day. But yeah, you know, just todo tranquilo.
And what's like the time that they suggest for you to rest? Just one day?
Yeah, usually one day. If you do get symptoms, it's usually like 24 to 48 hours, and so those should be subsiding already.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Good to know. You already have your vaccine, ¿verdad, Jaylen?
Yeah, so
How was your experience?
I had no symptoms for the first one or the second one. So I was like, didn't get anything yet. And I still don't feel anything. I'm like, wow. Hey, March, I still don't feel anything.
Órale, pásanos tantita suerte.
You know, I guess it just depends on everyone, because my mom, she didn't feel anything either. The first one, second, nada. So it just depends on, and I was dying. When I took mine, I was like the next day, I was like in bed all day. So I guess it just depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, hombre. Bueno, pues, todos los que se están conectando, thank you guys for tuning in with us. If you have questions, you can go ahead and leave it in the comments. Dejen sus comentarios. Si no los leemos ahorita en el live, pues we can come back to the comments. Anything that you like to give us an advice for anybody who's, you know, having to go outside and be around people? Like, I know follow all protocols, right? Pero ¿qué es algo que tú has visto that's, you know, very important to follow?
You know, even when you get the vaccine, it's still important that you use your mask, that you're social distancing. Now they're finally starting to allow, you know, if you're all vaccinated, that you're able to take off your mask. But, you know, it's very like, you need to be aware of what's going on, where have these people been, and still protect yourselves to the most that you can, because there are new variants going on, and we need to make sure that we get all the information before we start opening up to something that's more normal of what it was a year ago. But yeah, just, you know, I still wear my mask, even though sometimes I have to remember, like, wait, I'm vaccinated. But, you know, it's habit now. It's just, you know, you can never be too safe. And if I feel comfortable just wearing my mask, I'll just wear it.
Okay. Sí, pues yo, yeah, I will keep wearing my mask. Everybody else, pues, sí, cuídense, porque even though, we're getting closer to the end of this, I feel that we still need to follow protocols. Cuídense, because this thing is not a joke, right? Esto va en serio. Jaylen has shared her experience and what she has seen. So please take care. Cuídense. Nosotros, as Insightfulbabes, we will still be taking care of each other. Jaylen, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. We're super glad that you were able to do this with us. Where can they contact you? Are you on Instagram? You are on Instagram, right?
Yeah, so Instagram, Facebook, yeah, mostly those two I use a lot. I tried Twitter, so I have a Twitter, but it's confusing. It's so many places to go. But yeah, Instagram or Facebook is the most accessible for me.
Perfect. We will leave her information on this live. That way you guys can go ahead and feel free to contact her. It's okay, right, if they contact you?
Yes, it's okay.
Oye, yo estoy acá. Sí, ahí moléstenla.
Any like general questions, but if it's like something serious, I think you should talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, so I can't do anything about that. But like, yeah, any general questions about nursing or mentoring and stuff like that.
Sí. No, pues this is awesome. Thank you, Jaylen, for being here with us. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your experience as a Latina RN. We're super proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep shining, girl, because what you're doing is so inspiring.
Thank you. And thank you guys for always giving me the opportunity to speak with other people and just like be here with you guys. You guys are so supportive, and I swear like it's so incredible to have such a great and supportive community like you guys.
Gracias. Cuídense. Nos vemos.
Okay. Bye, guys.